We're back with Otis Sanford, Susan Adler-Thorpe, and Reverend Keith Norman talking about politics now and the mayor's race specifically. We had a forum at Mississippi Boulevard Christian Church this past week, and this was the first appearance on stage by one of the perceived frontrunners. Sheriff Floyd Bonner was there. They all went on and on pontificating about crime being the #1 issue, but it was funny, most of the solutions were they left with the state to solve. We need to have tougher laws, we need to improve literacy, things that a mayor really doesn't have a lot of say in necessarily. But what was interesting to me this week, and Susan, I'll go to you first on this one, was the news about the 201 Poplar and the inmate deaths. Yep. The Daily Memphian deserves credit for this. They found that there had been 40 inmate deaths since 2019, most of them suicides. Still, the national average is 167 deaths per 100,000 inmates. Shelby County has 2.5 times more than that. And the person who runs the Shelby County lockup is the sheriff, Sheriff Floyd Bonner. And a lot of people are saying, well, that could be an issue in this campaign. What are you thinking if you're his campaign manager?
Well, it could be an issue because 90% of his budget is to take care of the jail. But let me, before I go any farther, let me, for full disclosure, I agreed yesterday to advise J.W. Gibson on his mayoral campaign. So let everybody know that what I have to say, I hope I'm not influenced by that. I'll be as broad-minded as I think I always have been as a journalist. But I think that Floyd Bonner has a real problem here with the jail in his mayoral campaign. You know, what's the old saying, the buck stops here? He is the man in charge of the jail. And of the 40 deaths that we refer to from 2019, 10 were suicides. And I've often heard it said that the Shelby County Jail is the largest mental health institution, if not in West Tennessee, in the state of Tennessee. Mm-hmm. And the jail is not created to be a hospital or a psychiatric facility. It is what it is, a jail. But that said, when somebody is taken into custody and booked into jail, the responsibility of that person's care comes under the jail. Let me give you a quick example. If you take a package to the UPS store and you insure it, you want to send it from Memphis to New York and you insure it, and you pay for the insurance, the minute that package is in the hands of the UPS people, it is under their care, under their insurance, until it's delivered to where it's supposed to go. It's the same analogy with the jail. Mm-hmm. The minute somebody is arrested and booked, whether they die in a hospital, whether they die in the jail, and how they die, it's the data and the damn data. It's still the responsibility of the sheriff.
Reverend Norman, I know that you were thinking about running yourself for Memphis Mayor. How do you assess the landscape of the mayor's race right now? And last time you were on the show, you said you were going to maybe try and have some conversations with some of the candidates, maybe urge them to not run in the interest of maybe having more of a plurality of support from voters. Where are you on all this right now?
Well, first of all, on the issue that Susan just spoke to, I agree with her. And there's a developing thought among some of the younger voters that 901 is bigger than 201, and if you can't run 901, you can't run 201, you can't run 901. And
that's the commercial.
It's the word on the street, unfortunately, and it's happening. And so that's going to have to be dealt with. The candidates are beginning to talk, some talking to one another. I don't know if anybody's talking about getting out of the race at this particular point. It's maybe too early for that, but they are agreeing that there need to be some common platforms and that we need to address some of those things. And then we need to let voters really get behind these candidates. And if they don't rise to a certain level, which is what we agreed to and said on this show several weeks ago, if you don't rise to a certain level of fundraising and polling, you may need to consider getting out of the race.
Okay. You think that politicians can do that, though? I just think it's against their genetics.
And against their ego.
And their ego.
They always still think, well, at the last minute, they're going to come out and support me. As for Sheriff Bonner, I do think that the jail is going to become an albatross for him. But it'll be up to the other candidates, the ones who know how to do it and do it effectively, to try to sully him a little bit with that. By saying what you just said, which I think is really pretty good. If you can't run 201, you can't run 901. That's a really good line. And they need to be saying that. And the sheriff needs to be talking about this a lot more than he is. And his spokesperson for that Daily Memphian story was basically saying it was all misleading, and did make the point that you made, Susan, about a lot of these deaths happened in the hospital, and it was suicides and all of that. Well, I mean, there's not much of a distinction there. I just think that Sheriff Bonner is going to have to explain that a whole lot better, and then make the case that, yes, I'm running a very difficult operation here. I'm doing the best I can, and I still am capable of running the the mayor's office and the city.
Yep.
During this forum I spoke of, the candidates were asked to hold up a yes or no placard if they thought that they would get out and determine that they might not be able to win. And only Paul Young, the head of the Downtown Memphis Commission, and James Harvey were the only two who said they would consider getting out of the race if it came to that. But no one else was interested.
Well, I think in fairness to all the candidates, and include, well, Paul and Mr. Harvey, if you announce early, well, I'll get out if it's not going my way, then it sends the message that you're not really in it 100%.
Yeah.
And I think that I can't blame anybody for not putting up the sign and saying, no, I wouldn't get out. But it's always in the back of a candidate's mind, can I go the distance? Will I go the distance?
Right.
And we won't know that as the public until the withdrawal deadline comes.
Well, we all agree the public's not probably tuned in right now, but do we also agree that come July 4th, things are going to start getting a little more interesting?
I definitely hear it, but I don't think it doesn't mean that they're not all in, Susan. I think that Paul is a humanitarian. I know that much about him, and I would defend the point that he would say that if he does not see a clear path, that for the good of the city. And I'm not supporting any of them. I just want to be clear that I don't think it means he's not all in.
Well,
he's really all in because he's been working hard while the rest of them have been fighting for residency requirements. So he's working.
He's got a clear path, especially in the money,
Right,
money side of it. So,
right.
I just, he put it up there, but I'm not sure. I'm not going to say it was insincere. I'm just going to say he played to the crowd.
Okay. All right. We'll leave it there. When we come back, we'll talk about the big news of the week, and that's the indictment handed down against Donald Trump for the second time, a criminal indictment by the feds. He becomes the first U.S. president to have that done. And we had local reaction from our congressmen almost immediately in some cases. We'll get to that in just a moment.